Hello everyone, this is Claudio from Samsung Canada. In this video I'll show you how to quickly install, configure and use the Samsung Secure Login Manager middleware, which is part of our business core solutions for the XOA platform copiers. So before we begin, I'd like to outline that the Samsung Secure Login Manager is a middleware. So it's a utility that you can use to authenticate securely into the Samsung copiers supported by this software and give control to another application, for example, a document management application or a secure pull printing application or something else. So the Secure Login Manager doesn't do anything else per se. It's just an authentication mechanism. So as any XOA application, you have to load it from the web interface of the device by logging in as the administrator. So let's do that. And then we go to the maintenance menu and add the application into the application management tab, just as we would update the firmware onto the copier. And once we do that, the file is being transferred to the MFP's hard drive, and it's running in Java code from there using the copier resources. No additional resources required. Now, as with any XOA application, you have to log out after you install it and log back in order to configure and use it. So let's do that. So let's first overview the application options. Like any XOA application, the Secure Login Manager will be loaded and accessible through the XOA menu of the web interface. As you can see, there's several applications running on this copier, which is a 9352 in our enterprise showroom. Secure Login Manager is one of them. The settings are extremely simple. So there's essentially login settings that you can change. That's pretty much it. The user mapping list shows what card IDs, if you have an optional card reader, are associated with Secure Login Manager. So essentially, this would be the main benefit of such a middleware like the Secure Login Manager, that it allows you to use a card reader, a USB card reader with our copiers, and authenticate with single sign-on into the device, and then give control to some other application. I'll show you what the single sign-on is as well. Let's configure. So configuration is super easy. You have login methods that you can choose from. Card login is one of them, which is only supported if you install this middleware. Otherwise, on our copiers, you have the default login with username and password via the touchscreen. You can also log in using a PIN code. The default login screen is an animated card login image that takes you through that a Secure Login Manager configures by default. But if you don't want that, you can just opt for an ID and password login or PIN login. But the card login, it looks nice. I'm going to show it to you in a second. Passcode verification refers to a dual authentication. So if you have a card reader, you might opt for a PIN code as well. So not just a card swipe. As an additional security step, you can ask for a password as well, or a PIN code. The background image, which is predefined in the Secure Login Manager, You can actually change. It's a GIF file, so all you need is, upload a GIF file with specific size like this into the web interface. And then you can customize what is the screen after login. So by default, it's the home screen of the copier. So you're going to see all the icons in the home screen, but you might want to default it to a specific application. In this case, I have a Smarter Workflow 3, which is our server-based document management solution installed on this copier as well. And I could, hypothetically point to Smarter Workflow 3, the end user, once he logs into the copier. I'm just going to leave the default. There's also a data clone at the very bottom, which is a useful feature to clone settings from one MFP to the other, right? So if you have a number of devices being deployed in the same customer environment, and they have a pool of users which are common between these devices, you can just quickly clone the settings here. For example, in this case, the card mapping that I have programmed in this specific MFP could be easily cloned to a brand new MFP on which I installed the Secure Login Manager. So that's about it in terms of configuration. It's super simple. And then with regards to using it, before we use it, we need to change some security settings. So in terms of user access control, the authentication mode has to be set either to device authentication or application. I'm going to explain what these are. Basic authentication is the factory default for our copiers. It means that you only need to authenticate when going to the settings. Device authentication means the screen is fully locked, and you have to authenticate first before you can access the touch panel. And application authentication gives you more granularity with regards to what applications have to authenticate and which are maybe open to everybody. For example, in this case, you could have color copy authentication enabled, and then you could have monochrome copy disabled for everyone else. So that's a possible usage scenario. So this is a granular way to use authentication. For now, let's use device authentication, which locks the front panel completely. And in terms of authentication options, I'm going to use LDAP and local because I have an LDAP server configured here. So I can use both local accounts in the copier, but also an external account, which is my own. In terms of login options, you can set up a timer to automatically log you out, like 30 seconds or so. That might be useful as a secure component in the environment. And the login page, you can opt between the card login picture that Secure Login Manager comes by default, or you can use the default login screen of the copier with a username and password. So let's leave the Secure Login Manager screen. Hit apply. And now we're ready to use Secure Login Manager. So let's see how it looks. I'm going to log out from the existing session. This is a remote session on a 9352. And this is the front login screen on the device once you install the Secure Login Manager. It's an animated picture inviting the user to swipe their badge against an access card reader. So this is the image that I mentioned you can customize and maybe change it with your own logo. Besides that, you can also log in with an ID and password, which is what I'm going to do from a remote standpoint anyway. I'm not near the machine, so I can't swipe. But notice here the button on the lower right, which allows a self-card registration. So this is these are the steps that an end user would have to go through, and it's quite easy to follow in order to authenticate securely with a card reader. So they would just have to type in their user ID, whichever that might be, the password, the domain, whether it's LDAP or whether it's a local account. They will choose it here from the list. And then The passcode refers to the optional two-factor authentication, so card reader and a passcode. You might want it or not at some point, so you have to put it in here. And then you hit OK, and you tap the badge to the card reader, and the card reader at that point reads the card ID and stores it into the MFP for later use. And every time you swipe again, it's going to know that it's you. So from this standpoint, I'm just going to simulate a card swipe here. So I'm just going to log in as user Samsung, which is a local user account here on the copier. So I have to use local for domain. And at this point, you can see up top, user ID, logged in user ID is Samsung. And for example, if I go to scan to email, this is the Samsung user email. Samsung b2b@gmail.com is the email corresponding to this specific user. And this refers to the single sign-on. So basically, the copier knows who your identity is and will automatically pull some, individual preference, not preferences, but configuration, like the email account. So to give you an example, if I were to log in as my domain account this time, it's going to reflect my my actual email address in scan to email. So you will note that at the very top of the screen, once you log in, it's going to show my username rather than Samsung previously. Right? So like this. Right? And now to show you the single sign-on feature, if I go to scan to email this time, you see the sender email is automatically populated by the copier with my own email. So it's an extremely useful feature, for an SMB or even corporate customer that wants to use this type of solution to allow their end users secure authentication at the copier with a nice animated login process and self-card registration, as well as providing the single sign-on feature, which will provide the user's identity to some other applications inside the copier. So this is about it. It's a very simple to install and use middleware. I would like to thank you for viewing.